How can these things be so popular in Germany, but so unheard of in the US? Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. We knew 4 years ago when we moved from the US to Germany that we would come across various culture shocks or things that we had never seen or experienced before, and that was part of our excitement and reason we did move to a foreign country. Whether it be from food to cars to how society functions, Germany has not stopped surprising us with sometimes big and sometimes small things that Germans consider normal to their everyday life that for us having grown up in Oklahoma, USA, we find extremely unique and brand new. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. It's not every day you get shocked this way unless you're in Germany. There are many stereotypes the world has about Germans, most of which we have attempted to bust after living amongst Germans for the last 4 years. You know, the lederhosen wearing, beer drinking, bratwurst eating types of specifically Bavarian stereotypes that get falsely applied to the country as a whole. However, one stereotype that we did not personally expect before moving to Germany was the absolute love for insurance? I really had no idea until we moved here that Germans generally have a love for insuring everything. We also learned of some types of insurances in Germany we didn't even know existed. Now, of course, in the US, we also have various forms of insurance. For example, when we lived in the US, we had things like health insurance, car insurance, we rented a home, so we had a renter's insurance. But when we moved to Germany, we were thrust into a world where people can easily have up to 10 plus different types of insurances. I actually even asked our German audience in a recent video how many insurances they have, and I got answers like me, and probably most Germans, yes, or, and as for how many insurances I have, there's only one correct German answer: not enough. And I did get some actual numbers, like one person who said they have around 10 types of insurances plus 2 types of retirement plans. Now, the average German statistically has about 6 policies per person, and when we moved to Germany, it was so overwhelming as we had to not only figure out what insurances we were required to have, but also what all these different insurances were that all Germans seem to have that we had never even heard of. Because of this, I'm very thankful to know that there are companies out there like Feather Insurance, the sponsor of today's video, whose mission is to make insurance in Germany simple and transparent, especially for expats, because they offer their services in English so you can avoid words like this. Feather offers a wide range of insurance policies, and if you want to go full German when you move to Germany and have 6 or more policies, it is incredibly easy to manage because you get all your insurances under one account. Of course, there are some insurances you're required to have in Germany, like health insurance, or in German Krankenversicherung. In fact, Germany has the oldest public health insurance system in the world. One of the most famous and popular insurances in Germany, with a whopping 85% of Germans having it, has the amazing name of Haftpflichtversicherung. This is liability insurance. For example, you accidentally spill a drink on somebody's laptop at a coffee shop, your Haftpflichtversicherung will cover the cost of those damages. Now, it isn't that this doesn't exist in the US, but they usually are not a standalone insurance like you can get in Germany and are typically just part of somebody's renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, where an overwhelming majority of Germans are worried about accidents they might be liable for. In the US, only 34% of Americans who are renting have renter's insurance, and only 10% of homeowners have homeowner's insurance. Another interesting insurance we had never heard of was one that 50% of Germans have, and that's legal coverage. You pay this insurance, you have legal services covered in the case you ever need them, and for example, you can feel more empowered to take on the big dogs if you ever need legal help. Unlike in the US, where someone might decide a legal battle isn't worth the fight because they can't afford legal representation or advising. Again, this does exist in the US, but I've never ever heard of someone having this type of insurance, actually personally. Overall, it just seems like Germans have insurance for everything and want to hedge their bets just in case something goes wrong, whereas in the US, the attitude seems more like, it's worth the risk to not have insurance versus pay for something I might never use. Maybe a little more reckless. As you'd expect moving to a foreign country, there are foods that we have come across in Germany that we had never seen or tasted before, and I've done a whole video where I tried some of the crazier foods for an American to find in Germany. But often, dishes that we come across in Germany that are new to us aren't out of the realm of food we can comprehend. For example, a schnitzel in Germany is typically made of pork that has been breaded and deep fried. Although I hadn't had a schnitzel in the US, I've had pork and fried dishes in the US, so this wasn't that big of a shock. But then, there are times that we do come across flavors or ingredients that exist in Germany that you just simply can't find in the US, and as a grown man, I'm tasting flavors I didn't even know existed before moving to Germany. One such flavor that is so popular in Germany that I don't understand how it goes completely unknown to the 300+ million Americans in the US, Waldmeister. Walk around a German town in the spring and summer, peek into the display cases at ice cream shops, and you will find a wildly unnatural neon green ice cream labeled Waldmeister. Waldmeister would translate directly to forest master, but the English name actually is sweet woodruff or wild baby's breath, which is also going to mean nothing to an American hearing it unless they are some kind of hardcore plant enthusiast. So what does Waldmeister taste like? Well, I'm no culinary expert, but to me it has a bit of a lime flavor, or at least in that direction, but it does have a unique flavor from lime. I had a cousin come visit this spring who tried it for the first time that said that he thought it tasted a bit of cake batter in lime, which I thought was a really interesting take. And online, I have seen it described as distinctively sweet and minty with hints of blackberry and vanilla. I don't know, it's kind of like me trying to describe a color to someone they have never seen. So let me know in the comments how you would describe the flavor to someone that has never had it. But along with ice cream, you will find it most famously in popular drinks for the spring in Germany called a Maibowle or an Ahoy Brause as a powder that you either put in a drink or directly lick up for a sweet kick. I'm gonna choose Waldmeister.
Go for it.
Whoa!
There's the flavor.
Or in Jello. But you must note, this is typically a seasonal flavor, so in the spring you will find it in tons of various forms, but then it will disappear later in the summer. I also have to admit, this is one of my absolute favorite things I've eaten in Germany, making it kind of sad that I don't even know how to recommend our American viewers how to try it since it doesn't exist in the US. I guess you'd have to come to Germany to try it, but let me know in the comments, what is your favorite Waldmeister food or drink? One thing Germany is famous for having that the US doesn't have is a desert. Well, wait, the US actually does have a desert and Germany technically doesn't actually have a desert? Oh wait, you won't find Germany's desert on a map because it is a Servicewüste. Yep, Germany is quite famous for having a Servicewüste or a Dienstleistungswüste, which would directly translate as a service desert. Except this is a very unique desert because rather than being warm, customer service in Deutschland can be decidedly frigid. In the US, especially in Oklahoma where we come from, we are very used to the customer is always right attitudes and businesses bending almost backwards to help you find what you were looking for. However, in Germany, we have found quite the opposite. In fact, it isn't even in the US that service will always go the extra mile or out of their way to serve you, but sometimes they just make themselves available to help you. In general, in Germany, service just doesn't go out of their way to help you unless you specifically ask for it, and even then, they will generally do the bare minimum to get you what you need. Now, you can say what you want about these two different cultures surrounding service because I can see pros and cons to both, honestly. As the Spiegel put it, American-style friendliness is, after all, often equated with extreme superficiality by Germans. Treating customers as an unwelcome intrusion on an otherwise perfectly fine day in the shop is the norm. But I personally really can't appreciate the fact that I know when I go into an American store, someone will help me find what I'm looking for, do it quickly, and do what they can to make it a pleasant experience. On the flip side, I do appreciate how, for example, in German restaurants, waiters aren't constantly interrupting you to see if you need anything like they do in the US restaurants. Now, not every business in Germany is this way, of course. There are various oases in the great German service desert that you can find, for example, like Feather Insurance. Just look at their 4.9 star rating on Trustpilot for proof. So the fact that they have created a website, contract, support, and claims all done in English, it truly is like finding paradise in an otherwise big German service desert. It's all 100% done online, so you don't have to mess with snail mail like most German companies rely on. Rather than hiring salespeople pushing policies on you that you don't need, Feather has professional expert consultants who can help simply guide you through this normally overwhelming process. This next thing, super common in Germany, surprised me for two reasons. One, because I stereotype Germans as being very orderly and strict, I assume this next thing wouldn't be the way it is, as it seems like it would lead to disorder. And two, once I saw why it is the way that it is, it made total sense to me why Germans do this and still maintain order. And that is, dogs are everywhere in Germany. On trains, in stores, in restaurants, in cafes. If humans are there, there will be dogs there as well. In the US, what I'm more used to is dogs staying at homes or in parks, and then only service dogs being allowed where humans go, generally speaking. However, one of the reasons why this seems to be the case in Germany is because, generally speaking, Germans seem to be very strict about training their dogs, and dogs are extremely well behaved in Germany. Therefore, they have the freedom to bring them nearly everywhere they go, and we have never once been disturbed by a dog in a public space. Typically, we'll go, for example, to a coffee shop. Someone will come in with their dog, and the dog will perfectly lay under the table or sit by the side of the owner and not make a sound. I've also been amazed at how often I'm walking through a busy city and Germans are walking around with their dogs off a leash as they perfectly follow their human without straying off course or getting distracted and taking off. In the US, I would say, again, very generally speaking, you will always find dogs on leashes, and not only that, they will be pulling their owners all over the sidewalk as they try and pave their own way. Besides that, dogs in the US just don't generally seem to have the same training and discipline that Germans' dogs do to be able to go to all these public spaces and be expected to not be a distraction or annoyance. Again, you obviously will find very well-trained dogs in the US, and in Germany I have seen, for example, one dog actually attack his owner in a train one day. But as a general theme, Germany has been surprisingly much more dog-friendly than I expected, and the dogs are much better trained than in the US. So on this note, I have had many Americans who are moving to Germany message me and ask how dog-friendly Germany is because they want to move here, but they are worried about bringing their dog. If you're one of those, I hope that answers your question. And also just a note, when you do come to Germany, Feather Insurance can also provide you with dog liability insurance just in case you do bring your dog and they get themselves into a little bit of trouble. It's not an incorrect stereotype or a secret that, generally speaking, Americans drive bigger cars than Germans do. However, when we moved to Germany, I simply expected to see a lot of small sedans driving all over the Autobahn rather than the SUVs and pickup trucks that I'm used to in the US. What I saw instead was very surprising, and that was loads and loads of hatchback cars. Something you just don't see in the US. In fact, the #1 most popular car in Germany is the VW Golf, whereas in the US, the #1 most popular car is a Ford F-Series. And the rest of the top 10 US cars doesn't even include a single hatchback car on the list. Along with just the sheer number of hatchbacks that will whiz past you on the Autobahn being a shock compared to the absolute non-existence of them in the US, it was also a shock to see all these tiny hatchbacks pulling trailers all over Germany. I've talked about this in another video that you can check out for a more in-depth analysis of this, but overall, it is shocking to see how vastly different the preference of cars and in particular the opinions on hatchbacks between Germany and the US. Now, you can do a quick Google search on why hatchbacks aren't popular in the US and get a plethora of hot takes like it's because Americans just prefer the look of other cars, they don't see the need, they are spec'd differently in the US, making them not as versatile as in Germany, or because in the US they are associated with being cheap entry-level cars, so nobody really wants one. However, I can say because of the prevalence of them, we did end up buying one as our first car in Germany against our original wishes, and we are sold. I'm not happy with how it looks still, but I love the fact that we have a car that feels small and compact, yet has a ton of cargo space for hauling things around. From a hatchback denier, I am now a hatchback subscriber. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is: what's the best way to prepare pork? Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in our next video. Whose mission is to make insurance in Germany simple and transparent. Let's redo that. Of a lime flavor, or at least in that direction without it, German dogs do to be able to go to all these public